Welcome to Two Hearts Dance and Yoga Heart to Heart series. It is my pleasure to be able to bring you some light of inspiration during this time. And but what better way to do it than with some of the people that I know who are doing great things in their field. It is my pleasure to bring Mike Creppy. Mike is a 10-year international pro basketball player, having played in multiple countries, including England, Denmark, Greece, Spain, Portugal, Czech Republic, China, and Germany. He was a NCAA Division I basketball player from UC Riverside. He was head basketball trainer at Adidas Republic of Sport Shanghai and has been a guest speaker at the Euro Pro Basket Pro Combine, the Academy, and their pro exposure camps. Mike is the author of his own published book titled Vindicated Sports Presents The Guideline to a Successful Basketball Career Overseas, which is available now on Amazon. He is the founder of his business, Vindicated Sports International Basketball Consulting Firm, established in 2017, and continues to share his passion for the sport of basketball with the world. Thank you so much for being here, Mike. It is really exciting to have you here.
Julianne.
Awesome, awesome. So before we get into things, since you have been living overseas for many years, how has this pandemic impacted your career and where are you living most recently?
Well, the pandemic, fortunately, I was actually in China right before the pandemic started in Wuhan. I was living in Nanjing, China, which is right outside of Shanghai, about an hour outside. And I came back around Thanksgiving time, and that's when, the virus started, probably in about February. So, it's impacted the international basketball industry tremendously because there's a lot of uncertainty. Some countries did very well with the pandemic. Countries like Sweden never closed down. They stayed open throughout this entire pandemic. But some other countries are a little more strict, like England is very strict right now. Countries in the Middle East are very strict right now without allowing indoor competition and things like that. So it's caused me to be creative. It's caused me to really assess things from a macro level and try to find different ways to impact the industry, you know, in unconventional ways. And so currently I'm living in Los Angeles, California. This is where I've chosen to have my off-season home. And even Los Angeles, things are different from here than in other parts of the country. So it's just been a lot of adjustments.
Absolutely. And I thought of you right away when thinking of, basketball and sports shutting down and knowing that this has impacted you just from being, in kind of the midst of things. So I'm glad things are well. I know you are from Maryland, which is awesome because so am I. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how you found your love for the game of basketball.
Wow. Like you said, I'm from Maryland, Silver Spring, Maryland, to be exact, suburb of Washington, D.C. I grew up, I guess pretty conventionally, two-parent household. My father is a federal judge. He's the first Black chief immigration judge in the history of the United States. My mother is a college professor, and she's from the Caribbean originally. So I grew up in a very eclectic household. So my dad's from D.C. originally. My mother's from the Caribbean, Guyana to be exact. And so our house was the house that everybody came to. My great aunt, who was the matriarch of our family, lived with us. So anybody that wanted to visit her had to come to our house. So our house was the house that everybody felt welcome. Um, my dad, even though he had no background professionally playing basketball, he had a strong passion for basketball. And he played on the weekends like most guys do, just to stay in shape and exercise and the camaraderie of the game. And he introduced us to the game early, but he never pushed us. I have two other brothers, um, Kevin and Justin. We're around the same age, 4 years apart. So we all played together and things like that. But he never forced the game on us. Obviously, I'm in a house where education was a premium and a priority. So basketball seen as an extracurricular sport, but my dad saw early that I had a passion to play and the ability to play. And so for me, most people say, "Oh, I watch Michael Jordan play, or watch Kobe play, or Magic Johnson," and that gave me the inspiration. I can't remember a time in my life where I didn't love basketball. And so I was the kid that was waking my dad up to take me to the field to go run, to go practice. I'm telling him about opportunities. And so, he never had to force me to work out not one time. And so I've always had that passion and that drive, just to be as good as I could get in the game. And then, once he saw that I had some success early, so then he started looking at the best places to put me to hone my craft. So that's when I started going to prep schools early on, and I went to private school basically my whole life, except for 3 years in high school. And that process really opened me up to what this game can do and the opportunities it can do for you, if you utilize it the right way. But one thing I give my dad credit for is that most parents, especially guys, they think they know what's best for their sons, and they want to be the reason that their son makes it and is successful. My dad was humble enough to know, like, look, I have limitations when it comes to this game. So if I want my son to be really good, I need to put him with the best people. And that's something that I try to emphasize to a lot of parents, as they're mentoring and raising their kids, is that, yeah, you love your kid more than anybody else will, but you're not an expert in every field. So you kind of have to let the experts do what the experts do if you really love your kid.
Yeah.
So
Very well put. That's really awesome to hear that, a lot of times I feel like parents sometimes their passions or force their kids to be into something, but to know that you just had kind of that love for the game and just brought it from like a very organic place is really good.
yeah, I mean, and I think another thing that helped was my dad was secure with who he was. A lot of guys, they're trying to live vicariously through their sons, and for whatever reason why their career didn't manifest the way they wanted to. And so, like, for my dad, he was okay with who he was as a man. And so, it wasn't something that he was trying to push me. So
Very good. Very good.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that journey with us. Playing at the college level, I know you ended up continuing your career through college. It takes dedication at that level. Did you know you wanted to be a pro player from the jump? And take us along the road that it took to earn your spot on college team.
Well, for me, like I said before, I had a lot of success early. I was always ranked as one of the top players in the county and the state. And so it was kind of like I knew I was going to college. It wasn't if I was going, it's where was I going to go.
Right?
So it wasn't something that I ever worried about. Like, that might sound a little bit arrogant, but that's how I thought. I never thought of a scenario where I would not go to college. And so I always had that belief. So I went through the whole AAU process. I played on the DC Blue Devils, which is on the Nike circuit at the time. And we played in all the best tournaments. And then midway through my high school career, I transferred to Good Counsel High School, which plays in the WCAC, and that's in a Catholic league, one of the top leagues in the country. And that league has the Mather High School, Gonzaga High School, St. John's High School, Paul VI High School, O'Connell High School. These schools are regularly ranked in the country's top 25 best teams in the country. And so, that gave me a lot of exposure as well. And so I got recruited by James Madison initially, but then the coaching staff got fired and the new coaching staff wanted to bring in their own recruits. So that's something that a lot of players need to understand when they're going through the recruitment process is just because you sign with the school, you're almost attached to the coach. And so it's a very imperfect system because a lot of times the coach will sign you and then the coach will get an offer to go to another school and he doesn't have to consult with you to see if it's okay if he leaves. He just leaves because it's better for he and his family.
Right.
But as a player, if we want to transfer, we have to get our documents signed and get a release letter from the school allowing us to leave. They don't have to allow us to leave because we're technically under contract with them through a scholarship.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is it's a lot of hypocrisy within NCAA, and that could be an entire different interview. Because I can go off about that because I'm very passionate about that. But but yeah, so that process was, normally you play in high school, you play well in high school, you play AAU, and you get recruited through AAU for a 4-year college, whether it be NCAA Division One, two, or three, NAIA Division One, NAIA Division Two.
Right.
And depending on how you played and your position and the want of the school, depends on who recruits you and things like that. But one thing to remember, if you're a kid out there that wants to play college basketball, is in this time, in this climate, AU basketball is almost more important than high school basketball because it offers the player more exposure.
Right, right.
And so, that's something that's almost imperative for any player that wants to play high school. I mean, play in college, they have to play AU basketball.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely. That's very, very good for anyone who's looking to continue on that path like you did.
Getting recruited by a lot of Ivy League schools, and I didn't give them the time of day because at that time they didn't give athletic scholarships. This was in 2004. In hindsight, knowing what I know now, being I'm in the business world and things like that, that networking that would have come from those relationships and the ability to still, progress my basketball career would have been invaluable. So I tell kids all the time now with social media and things like that, we didn't have that when we were coming out of school, where we can basically brand ourselves. You can go anywhere to play, but think about the macro, the big picture. Think about how this decision is going to affect me 15 years down the road. Because after you leave school, if you're fortunate enough to continue playing basketball at the professional level, you're still going to need ways to leverage your career to generate other streams of income. And those relationships that you have in college will help facilitate that. So definitely don't overlook, a good institution because they might not be as good athletically.
Right, absolutely. Words of advice, especially for those, not kind of putting all of your eggs in one basket, really thinking about the relationships that you're building that can really create more income streams and create more opportunity for yourself. So that is wonderful.
Exactly.
Thank you. So after graduating college, did you focus on going pro, or what path kind of led you to continuing your career internationally?
Well, when I was coming up, the narrative was you striving for the NBA. The NBA was the end all be all, right? End all be all. You hear about a couple of guys that go overseas, but those stories were very scarce and you didn't really get a lot of details. And so, for me, it wasn't a thought about going overseas. I didn't really entertain that thought until after I finished school and came to realization about what my opportunities were. I had a couple looks from the NBA Summer League and things like that, but even with that, my path was still directing towards overseas and playing internationally. So, I started talking to a lot of people that had played out there, a lot of coaches, agents and things like that. So I started to understand the process. And because when I was in college, I was in a fatal car accident where my teammate died and another girl that was in the car with us, she died too. That kind of put a halt to my college career and affected my statistics. And, I was fortunate, I was very blessed that I escaped that accident with a separated shoulder and a broken foot, but, it took me a while to get back to my playing shape. And so because of that, I was fighting against all of that while I was trying to get recruited and signed to play overseas. So when people saw my stats, they saw, okay, you only played a half a season, and they made assumptions based on that. And they didn't understand. There's no asterisk that says he's a really good player, but he was in a fatal car accident. Only look at your profile. So, and I don't say that for sympathy because everybody has a story. Mine happened to be a car accident. Some people is financial resources, lack of financial resources, family issues, whatever that can distract you and put a halt to your career. So you're going to be fighting against all of that, as well as the thousands of other players that you're competing against to get these handful of jobs. So what happened for me was I was able to get dual citizenship in Europe through my mother. So my mother is from the Caribbean. The island she was born in, called Montserrat, is a territory of the UK, of Britain. So because of that, I get access to the citizenship because of birthright.
Right.
And so these are loopholes that I talk to my clients about through Vindicated Sports, about things that can help separate you and give you leverage and make you more marketable. And the reason why that's important overseas is because most countries only allowed a certain number of imports per team. There's a quota. So because I have dual citizenship, I'll count as a European player. So they can still sign another American and they're getting me as an American as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, so so going through that process, after I finished school, I took a year off just to train, get my body back right. And then I was fortunate enough to get the passport during that time. And then I played my first season in the United Kingdom and Britain and England. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. Really great knowledge that people can take with them, and thinking about the citizenship and all of kind of what you can use to leverage you as a player. Great. Thank you so much. So continuing with your career as a 10-year international basketball player, you have lived and played in several countries, including Europe and in Asia. I can only imagine how difficult it has been to adjust to different ways of living, from the culture to just the norms, the customs, and just everyday life that is so different from the way that we might have grown up here in America. How was your experience living in other countries as an African American man, particularly? And what early challenges did you face in different countries that you lived in?
Well, actually, I had a very good experience so far playing overseas. I haven't had any, too many negative incidents. Um, And part of that, I know I have, God's grace is with me. I'm a man of faith. So I always pray before I go everywhere and I try to walk with God as close as I can. And another part is about how I present myself. I kind of embrace the cultures that I go to. I don't go there as the arrogant American and things like that, which is the narrative that they have over there. They expect you to be arrogant. They expect you to be a prima donna, especially as an athlete. Basketball players in particular are seen as prima donnas, even in the States. So you combine that with the arrogance and the stereotypes of Americans in these other countries. Um, I just go there and just try to be one of the people. I try to adapt to the language. Um, and in full disclosure, it took me a few years to remember I'm not in America, because when I first would get to a country outside of the UK, I would speak English and expect them to understand English, and I'm not realizing I'm in Denmark or I'm in Greece and this isn't their first language. It's not their native language. So, once I understood that, I started kind of studying the languages. Google Translate became very prevalent in my life. Um, but, in Europe, I didn't have too many incidents where me being a Black man in a different country really was a negative factor for me. In China, at first I thought it was negative because in China they're it's a very unique place. It's the most unique place I think in the world. It's like a different planet in a good way, because they're very closed off. They have their own cultures and they pick and choose what they want to adapt from the West. And so, in China, they don't have Instagram, they don't have Facebook, they don't have Twitter, they don't have anything Google or Facebook owns is blocked out there.
Huh.
Yeah, it's blocked. So they have their own social media called WeChat. WeChat is owned by Tencent, which is a major company, and so they have their own social media. And some people have access to it, to our social media, but for the most part, they see what they want them to see, because it's a socialist society. So most people classify it as communism, but I classify it as socialism. But that's a whole nother discussion. Um, but in China, they stare at you. They stare at you. They'll point. They'll hand you their babies. It's really a unique place. And I would ask my translator, why are they staring? Why are they always looking at me and things like that? And he said it wasn't anything malicious or anything like that. They were just so infatuated and curious about us.
Yeah.
And so once I understood it wasn't malicious, it was cool. I was able to adjust. I started to embrace it, but it can be a lot because, when I'm playing, I like the attention. I'm used to the attention. I expect the attention. But off the court, I'm very laid back. I like to just to blend in. And so when I get attention like that, some days I will even think about, like, do I even want to leave the apartment today? Because I know all these people gonna stare at me. Like, you'll be sitting down and eat, and a group of people just come around watching you eat, and it's like it can be a lot sometimes. And
Yeah.
so, I try to keep things in perspective and keep my perspective positive, because I'll just think about, okay, like look at where I am. I'm in China right now. Like I'm in this different part of the world. People save up their whole lives to come here. The day is nice, the sun is out. That's my perspective. That's what I choose to focus on. Because anything else, I would have 1,000 things to complain about.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I just like, for me, like whenever I go to different countries, I always try to work on myself mentally and spiritually first, because the basketball part is the easiest part to adjust to.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I know the Mike Creppy that I've known is just always positive, always very open, and always kind of that just positive light that easy to talk to. So it's great to hear that that kind of thing really translates well in other countries as well. And you're able to, just kind of blend in and pick up the culture and go with the flow as you need to. But I'm sure they idolize you very much, so that's probably where they
No, see, I don't like that. That's the thing. And I'm not even an A-list star. So when, LeBron comes over there, when Kobe came over there, when that happened, oh, it was crazy. Like it's like Michael Jackson, Justin Bieber type of stuff. Like,
yeah, you're
yeah,
like, I don't want any of that attention.
I don't want any of that. People crying and fainting. I had that happen to me one time with a fan. Like she started shaking and started crying after I gave her autograph. I was like, yo, this is too weird. Like, I don't want any parts of this.
Yeah, you're just like, I just want to play my game and then go back.
Go home. Like, I just want to go home.
Totally understand.
Yeah.
Awesome. Going
Uh,
to the game of basketball, playing ball with others who might not even speak your language must be a challenge in itself. The good thing is the fundamentals of the game of basketball are the same everywhere, right? If
yeah,
not,
correct.
yeah, if not, correct me. But tell us what it's like communicating with your team on the court during a game.
Well, like you said, basketball is universal. If you know how to play the game, the fundamentals are all the same no matter where you go. So, there's certain things that we do on the court. Like if I dribble at you, you taught to automatically go back door, so I know you're going to cut and things like that. So we have a tacit. It's a tacit game. It's unwritten rules, unspoken rules. But then a lot of times English is the universal language in basketball. So the players normally that play at that level all speak English very well, or enough to communicate. I've
Right.
never had a teammate who didn't speak English or didn't understand what I was saying basketball wise.
Very
And
good.
I think it's because basketball and sports in general, if I get a little deeper with socioeconomics, is an expensive it's an expensive, what's the word I'm looking for?
Habit, hobby.
Elective, like an elective hobby, something like that, right? It's very expensive to, if you want to be good, the training, the travel, the equipment, things like that. And so, most people that play the game on that level have the ability to pay for that, which means they probably have the ability to go to good schools, and those good schools afford them the ability to be more exposed to different cultures. And that's what I've seen, especially in China. In China, the kids who can play basketball, who are very good at basketball, they all speak English,
Yeah.
very well. And so, but yeah, I've never had a teammate who didn't understand what I was saying. And then I pick up basketball terms in their language too. So like in China, I can speak fluent Chinese basketball. I can't speak Mandarin fluently, but I can speak basketball fluently. So I can tell somebody to shoot the ball, pass the ball, play defense, switch on defense,
Yeah.
things like that. So, but
Awesome.
yeah, so it hasn't really been difficult. There was a time when I was in Denmark. We actually had a motivational speaker come in to my team, and we were on a losing streak. So the coach was trying to shake some things up, and the motivational speaker asked us, what language do you guys speak in? And for the first half of that season, the Danish players were speaking in Danish. The Americans, we were speaking it in English, and there was a disconnect, and it showed on the court. He said, "Listen, you guys are on the team. Can everybody in here speak English?" Everybody said yes. So he said, "This is the language you guys need to speak." So, that was pretty cool because I didn't know they did that. I saw that in college, you see that in NBA and things like that, but I didn't know they did that internationally as well.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks so much. wonderful to hear. Really, really great. Um, so you have great experience playing and coaching on the international court, and you have been a mentor to many in leading them on their own path. Your passion has led you to writing your own book. Tell us about Vindicated Sports presents the guideline to a successful basketball career overseas and kind of how that came about for you.
Wow. It was 2015. I was playing in the Czech Republic, right outside of Prague, and I was watching an NBA game, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, the last guy on this bench is getting at least 9 other streams of income through endorsements, through advertising, through his likeness. You know, here I am, not making their money, and I have one stream of income. And it dawned on me like, okay, how am I going to invest this money that I've made to leverage other streams of income? So I started thinking about the stock market. You know, people try to push you to stocks and real estate. And I'm not a proud person. So if I don't know something, if I'm not educated on something, I'm not afraid to say that. So I didn't know anything about stocks. I didn't know anything about real estate, but I knew this industry because I had been in it for 8 years at the time. And so 7 years, sorry. And so I got to thinking, how can I leverage my playing career to generate other streams of income within this industry? So I said, okay, people ask me for advice all the time. So let me find a way to disseminate this information. So I wrote it out in an outline form first. And I just hit up all the schools that I know. I hit up University of Maryland, my alma mater, UC Riverside. And I said, can I just come and have 15 minutes to speak to your players? And so they allowed me to come and I spoke. And it became too tedious because I was like, I'm still training myself, I'm still playing. So I'm like, okay, how can I get this out to the masses? So I took that information that was in outline form, and I put it in paragraph form and formatted it for a book. And I just started writing. You know, I just started writing, and I started thinking about my own career. What are the things that I wish I would have known before I entered my first season? And then I consulted with a few of my other friends who are in the industry, and they said the same thing. Like they were like, Mike, you have something here. This is something that we all needed, and we all had different playing backgrounds, but we all had the same experiences. Like we didn't know anything before we left. We just knew they had money over there for us, and there was basketball.
Right.
And so we didn't know how to vet agents. We didn't know how to negotiate contracts, how to organize our game film in a professional way, the passport opportunities, you know, all of these things that can, you know, give you longevity in this market. And so, you know, I started writing that. I published it my first year in China because I had a lot of free time. And you know, so instead of watching every TV show known to man, which I had been doing the previous, you know, 7 years, 8 years, I started, you know, I started researching, you know, different ways to write. And I wrote every word of it myself. I didn't have a writer. You know, my mother being an English professor, you know, I'm grammatically sound and things like that. So that helped a lot. And I wanted it to sound like a basketball player was talking to them. I didn't want it to sound like, you know, too formal. You know, of course, we were grammatically sound and everything like that, but I'm speaking in a way that they understand because I want the information to not get lost in, you know, using 5-syllable words and things like that. I wanted to speak in their tone. And so wrote the book, launched the book, you know, rave reviews because it was something that everybody needed, but they didn't know they needed it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And so, you know, ESPN Undefeated allowed me to write for them shortly after that. You know, after they checked out my book, they wanted to know about kind of like you wanted to know about the international basketball experience from a player's perspective. And so I wrote for them. And then once that happened and that went public, then that's when everybody started contacting me. So then I launched my company shortly after that, just to make it official because I had been consulting players indirectly, unofficially for years. You
Okay.
know, like if somebody, you know, wanted to play overseas and I got an offer that, you know, didn't fit where I was in my career at the time, I would say, hey, you know, I'm not really interested in this deal, but this player is. So I would do things like that, you know, for free. And so, you know, I just turned it into an LLC just to be official. And here we are. You know, like writing a book wasn't something that was a plan of mine. I was that kid that had all his eggs in one basket. You know, all I thought about was basketball. It took me to my junior year to decide to declare a major in college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Our athletic academic advisor would ask me, you know, Mike, what do you want to do after college? I said, play basketball. You guys don't have a major for that. So, it took me a while. I ended up graduating with a sociology degree because it just fascinated me.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so this wasn't something that I planned. To me, I really believe this is my purpose. I never understood why I had such a passion for playing basketball and why I love the game so much. I knew it had to be something deeper than me just playing the game. And so I'm starting to move towards what I feel like my purpose is, and it's a great feeling because I'm able to help players. I'm able to create opportunities for people to leave their cities and travel the world, all expenses paid through my company, and things like that. And those type of opportunities can change a person's thinking, and they can take that back to their community. So it's a lot of socio-economic, you know, details within what I'm doing. So and it's invoking change. One player at a time.
That's
So.
amazing. It's great to hear, and I'm so proud of you. It's great to hear that you took this passion of yours and you really are living in your purpose. You're really helping others, and it just seems so natural to you. And that's something I admire about you so much. I hope to get to that level where I can completely live in my purpose and be able to share all of my passions with people, and it's awesome to see someone like you being able to do that. So thanks for inspiring me personally. And
Oh, you're welcome. And you're taking steps towards that. You're there. Like, yeah, you're definitely in. You're in the room.
yeah,
So yeah.
thank you, I appreciate that so much. I just have one more question for you. um, do you have any daily routines or practices that keep you going, keep you motivated or grounded during challenging times?
Oh, for sure. First and foremost, my faith. I keep Jesus first in my life, so I always make sure that whatever I'm doing, I try to the best of my ability to apply what I'm reading in the Bible to my life. Obviously, I'm a man. I'm flawed. Like everybody else. I'm not perfect, but I'm able to recognize when I'm straying. Because of my foundation. So I never get too far away.
Yeah.
And so just that to start my day with helps me go out into the world where you don't know what you're going to encounter, you don't know who you're going to encounter, what type of day they've had. So I try not to allow. My mother always said this to me: you cannot be stressed unless you allow yourself to be stressed.
Yeah.
And I try to live by that because nobody has control over your emotional state but you. They can do things that most people will get angry about, will get frustrated about, will get stressed out about. But at the end of the day, you have a choice to make. You can choose to get stressed out about it, or you can say, well, what they're doing has nothing to do with me, but them. They might be going through something,
Right.
and I'm just the recipient of that action. My mother's the most positive person. You think I'm positive? My mother's 100 times more positive than me. Like I used to think there was something wrong with her because she was always happy. She was always positive. Like her voicemail was, life is good when you look for the good in life. Like that's her all day, every day. And so, just hearing that, growing up, that's how I start my day. So I start my day, making sure my faith is strong, making sure I'm going out into the world to use my purpose the right way.
Mhm.
And then from there, I try to be disciplined, have a routine where I work out even in the off season before I handle any business. Because if I don't take care of me, then my business will suffer and my clients will suffer. And so, in order for me to effectively counsel my clients, I need to be right with myself, spiritually, mentally, physically.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that's my routine. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't pour from the empty cup. So always making sure that your health, your wellness, your mental, your physical, all of the things that you can control are put into the places that you can. So thank you for sharing that. And,
You're welcome.
having you on here and being able to connect with you. And on behalf of Two Hearts Dance and Yoga, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your light, and for continuing to just be an inspiration. Mike, how can people learn more about you or kind of tune in to the things that you're doing?
Well, I have my website is being built right now, but we have heavy social media presence. We're on Facebook as well as Instagram at Vindicated_sports. That's Vindicated. A lot of people have trouble spelling that for some reason, but it's really straightforward. It's spelled the same way Vindicated is always spelled. Vindicated underscore sports, and on Instagram, I mean on Facebook, it's Vindicated Sports International Basketball Consulting. So yeah, we have a heavy presence on there, and then everything is public. So even if you can't remember the handle, you can Google us, and we're all there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing everything with us today. Look forward to seeing all the great things that you continue to do. And yeah, stay safe out there. Hopefully you'll get back into, I guess you guys, if your gyms are closed or what else, I don't know. Here we have nothing. I've been
You're in
doing
Philly, right? In
it.
Philadelphia?
What was that?
Are you still in Philadelphia?
Yeah, right outside of Philadelphia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure, Leanne. I hope, I look forward to seeing how you build with your brand, and I'm rooting for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That means so much to me. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Aw,